Welcome back, guys, to another Jar Academy podcast. My name is Simi Gosling. If we have not met before, if we have, welcome back. If you are following along each week, I apologize. I am very sorry. I said I was going to have a little break, and it ended up being a much bigger break. And if you're looking at the video, hopefully you can see why, because we have a new studio set up, which is very exciting, but also took much longer than expected. This picture behind me, I accidentally ordered it from Amsterdam. It's a whole, you guys don't care, and I don't care. We just care that we're back, but I apologize. Anyway, today's episode, the foundations of earned secure attachment. I hated when I first found out, and I was moving from an insecure attachment style to a more secure attachment style, that there was like this term going around called earned secure attachment. I was like, you are kidding me. Like, I'm doing all this work. Like, can't I just be securely attached? Like, why does it have to have another name? Like, are we just like forever labeling like you used to be broken? And it bugged me to death. But this is such a powerful phrase to know and understand, because I think now if I hadn't have researched it, right, and I wasn't taught about it, because when I did my attachment work, I actually originally didn't get taught this. It's become more of a newer term in the more recent years, right? And understanding it, I was like, oh shit, if I didn't know this, there would be so many times where I would go through situations that are really kind of specific to people with earned secure attachment, and I would probably fall more into a spiral and collapse, not knowing it, because I would be looking at these lists, perfect traits of what secure attachment is, and be like, oh, I'm still not that, and kind of like shame myself. So I think this is really important to know. So we're going to kind of go over that first off, and then after this, we are going to go through like the foundations, and I'm going to give you guys what is going to sound like really basic shit, and you probably know it. But if you are frustrated, if you understand what attachment style you have and why you have it, and you're like, I can't seem to fucking make the change and relate more securely, this is going to help you, because these foundations are your bread and butter. Okay. These foundations become like the based applied skills that we have, and they help us to communicate in a healthy way, not just like gritting our teeth and communicating, but actually like feeling internally like, okay, what's behind the anger, what's behind the fear, what's behind all that, and speak from a softer kind of place. It's also going to help us notice when we're becoming emotionally flooded in our arguments, because we're going to have that awareness. It's going to help us actually pause before reacting. And best of all, it helps us with like soft startups and these really important skills that are more than just about secure attachment, but they also go on to help us as we move into things like the differentiating stage and all these other stages in our relationships, right? It also helps us generate what I call emergent qualities. Now, this is where we have things like emotional maturity, and when you have things like self-trust and you have things like emotional processing down packed, these skills come naturally. So please, when I list these few emergent qualities, don't be like, oh my god, there's more things I have to do. But it will help shift your mindset and the way that you relate, that these start coming quite naturally. So you build things like relational confidence and self-responsibility and capacity for intimacy, because you have the foundations down packed. Before I jump in, our little brain body medicine fact for today is about relationship triggers. Relationship triggers are very different to when you or I might get stressed because we have a lot on our plate, or because we have just received a big bill, whatever it might be. There is a big difference between a general spike in your nervous system because you were dysregulated from a external situation, and a relational trigger. When we're relationally triggered, this is where any of the five senses can pick up on a stimulus that is similar to a previous event that had happened before. So, for example, my boyfriend doesn't text me back for a few hours. Hypothetically, I could be like, oh my God, remember when Matt, George, Steve, Peter, Sam all did this, and fuck, I've seen this pattern before, and I get really dysregulated about it. And I might not even consciously be thinking that, but my body is responding that way. That's why it feels so much more intense, right? Because it's like all of these unprocessed emotions are now coming to the surface and going like, like this is a 10 out of 10, this is a 10 out of 10. In reality, is it a 10 out of 10? He's probably busy working. My reaction in my body is not proportionate to the situation. And this is what makes it a trigger, because it's like it shows us where there's parts of ourselves that still need a bit of work. And it's not a bad thing these triggers come up. It's almost like a data collection, right? It's like your body signaling to you like, hey, like this part you didn't quite actually sit with enough. Here's some information for you. Anyway, before I keep rambling, let's jump into it. So, earned secure attachment. What is it? Earned secure attachment is a phrase that is given to those who have come from an insecure attachment style, either through childhood or maybe through our older years, and we had unhealthy relationships. We've ended up with this anxious, avoidant, disorganized, and now we're kind of starting to work through it using therapy, using somatic work, using healthy, secure relationships. And as we start to move through it, we become more securely attached, but we have earned it. And the reason why that is really important is because when we go into things like moving in with our partners, when we have babies, when we get engaged, when we get married, these old coping strategies are much more likely to come up. In times of high stress, they're more likely to come up. Even though we may not be engaging in it the same way we used to, we can still kind of see these patterns happening. And it's really important to know that, because I just moved in with my partner. Hello. Yes. True love still exists. Woohoo. Taylor Swift got engaged, okay? Anyway, we basically have this awareness that that's going to happen. I mean, mind you, I was like everyone and was like, not me. Yes, me. Even me. You can tell I'm still disdained about it. But we have these patterns still come up. And like for me, I tend to lean more avoidant. So I was very much like, no, this is my space and this is my podcast room. And, you have to work in your office. And I was very like, give me my space. And then like literally a week later, now he goes out to his office, and every day I go out there and I'm like, hello, remember me? So it goes away quite quickly, but it really helps us to stop with that mental collapse. Stops us from falling into like that pattern of being like I'm still broken, this is still following me, fuck you mum and dad, fuck you Sam, George and Peter. It just helps. Okay, so it doesn't mean that you are forever broken, but it helps to give you context of like where things might be different for you and where things might be a little bit more of a conscious effort. And honestly, over time anyway, like now I don't even care about that terminology whatsoever, because it's just, I have a healthy, secure relationship. So it doesn't matter at the end of the day. So what are our foundations for it? When I talk about our foundations, most of you know these, okay? And I would not be surprised if they're not new terms for you guys. But if you guys can practice these daily and you're wanting to make that change, you'll see huge, huge progress. So listen up. Number one is our self-awareness. Shocker, I know, but this isn't just about being self-aware of like our own emotions and our patterns and triggers. When we're kind of doing our own inner journey, it's very us focused, right? It's very like, what are my emotions? What are my patterns? What are my triggers? But now it's also about like, where are my emotions like overriding the situation? And what I mean by that is, obviously we feel our emotions, but our emotions aren't always the truth. Sometimes we feel things because they're based on the past and they're quite intense, and then we calm down and we don't actually see them. So it's also being self-aware of like when our emotions are kind of overtaking the situation, we're no longer reacting proportionately to what might be happening. There's also being aware of where our patterns are actually limiting us. Am I just coming up with my patterns and seeing them and trying to grit my teeth and like be like, well, this happened because that happened, and like just try and make it through the pattern and eventually calm down? Or am I, like I said in our brain body medicine fact, like, am I seeing what's coming up and using that as information to heal what's actually underneath that? Now, obviously a big one of these is always like journaling, or when like our emotions are whatever's coming up. And I'm going to talk about this more in processing, but actually like kind of figuring out what's behind it. But one thing that I always say to people, and I don't actively push this out there, but I say it because I know that everyone's freaking doing it, okay? If you are someone who immediately turns to ChatGPT and you are like, oh my God, Chad, Stephanie said this about Becca and I hated it and it was terrible, but also who's right and who's wrong? And ChatGPT is a mirror. And a lot of the time it is going to tell you what it thinks you want to hear. And there's a lot more awareness about that now than what they used to be, say, 6 months ago. But it's really important that if you are doing that, I want you to say, like, what my blind spots be in this? Where might I be not responding appropriately? Don't just agree with me. Using all these terms into ChatGPT is going to help it give you a bit more of a subjective opinion rather than like just being like, yeah, you're so aware and he's a dick. Challenge yourself and challenge ChatGPT if you're using it. That's all I got to say on that one. For our nervous system awareness, our nervous system is so freaking important when it comes to earn secure attachment. And it doesn't sound sexy. And again, it's one of those things that we all think we're doing okay at until shit hits the fan. And nervous system awareness is so important for knowing when you're actually becoming triggered, being able to process those root causation that I was just kind of speaking about, like what is the root, and like allowing it to come up and feeling it. It's also the foundation for co-regulation. So if you are someone that is like, I want more earned secure attachment, do me a favor. For the next month, do this like a challenge. Do 3 to 5 minutes every day of like a breath work that you find on Spotify. I use Othership app, not sponsored, just freaking love it because I love a little guided like breathwork thing, and you get to pick one based on your mood. Or like a little meditation, even like going to yoga. Recently, I was going to yoga like 2-3 times a week, and I cannot tell you the freaking difference it made in my ability to regulate myself. When we are more stressed and we go into our relationships, let's say I'm already at a 4 out of 10, right? And then my partner comes in and he says, saying, he makes a joke, it doesn't land well. I'm much more likely to react or like get annoyed or frustrated because I don't have that capacity today to hear what I might find funny if I was a 1 and kind of be like, you're an idiot, and kind of banter back at him and have a play. Our stress in our relationships is our responsibility. And it's okay for our partners to be stressed. It's okay that we get stressed, but we also can't just take that stress out on everybody. So this nervous system regulation and awareness is so crucial to so many ways of relating externally, but it also becomes your freaking beacon. If you are someone who very much gets confused between like, oh, I don't know if I'm being too much, I don't know if I'm this, I don't know if it's them, I don't know if it's me, I don't know what's happening. Nervous system stuff. I will say it till I'm blue in the face. Like, it is just the most life-changing stuff when it comes to relating securely. It helps you create a really healthy relationship with yourself that kind of shifts where you tolerate being treated, because it's like, well, if I can turn up for myself when I feel like shit, I'm not gonna put up with you telling me that my emotions aren't valid. I'm not gonna put up with you telling me that I need to get over it, because I turn up and I am compassionate to myself and I allow myself to feel. Now, the biggest thing I will teach you that I have learnt about nervous system regulation as a somatic practitioner who also needs to regulate her own bloody nervous system a lot, because I wasn't taught it as a child. Lucky you. How nice for those that were. But when you are dysregulated, let's say I'm going through a trigger right now. I'm triggered, I'm pissed off, I'm angry, blah, blah, blah. Number 1, don't shut your eyes and try and meditate. Shake it out, get some of that energy going, get it all out, do your emotional processing part. When you start to do something, everyone will tell you, breathe, do breath work, whatever. Yes, you want to like work on your body, but your prefrontal cortex plays such an important freaking role in this. You have no idea. Because if your prefrontal cortex, when you're too emotionally flooded, goes offline, right? So then you use your body to bring yourself back online. And then if I'm like, he's a dick and he did this, and I replay that situation, what am I telling my body? That the danger or the threat is still there. So it is not safe to be regulated and to continue to be dysregulated. So I also have to start to have some compassionate mindset work and be like, hey, you're okay. It's all right. And try and start to almost coach myself or reparent myself the way that I need it to be. Let's move on to number 3. Very important to the last 2 we just spoke about. Self-trust. Self-trust comes from keeping promises to ourselves, same with confidence, but it also comes through actually regulating our nervous system and turning up when we said we would. when we have an insecure attachment style, there's so many beliefs that come up because of this, and we don't even realize them because they're very implicit. And basically what I mean by implicit is, they're subconscious. We don't think about them, but our body remembers them. And we get this concept, right? For example, no one ever supports me, no one ever turns up for me, no one ever cares for me. When you have self-trust, for example, I know if I am dysregulated today, I will do something about it. And what I will do about it will depend on how dysregulated I am, but I know that I will do something about it, and I won't just distract myself and scroll and try and suppress it. And because I have done it enough times to trust myself that I'm going to do it, right? And that comes from you doing it daily to start off with. If this is stuff that you're like, I freaking need to relate more securely, start off daily, do it 3 to 5 minutes, and that will start to build the trust. And then you can move to when you start to notice, okay, that was a really stressful meeting, I'm going to do my 3 to 5 minutes. And then when you hit that 100, you trust that you can self-regulate yourself out of it because you can do it when it's a 10. Does that make sense? So it's like, if I want to run the marathon, I have to trust that I can run the 5Ks and well. Our next one is emotional processing. And this is feeling our emotions and being like, I'm so angry and I'm so pissed off and da-da-da. But do we fight them? Do we be like, I shouldn't be feeling like this. I need this to go away. I need to feel good. I want to feel better. And it's like, if we're not feeling the best we've ever felt, then everything else is bad? Or do we kind of name it and be like, I feel angry because that situation was upsetting, and that's pretty human and a normal experience. And I understand because I have not distracted myself from my emotions, and again, building on that self-trust here, that emotion will move through me. And the more capacity you have to process your own emotions, the more you can have a partner who is pissed off and frustrated and upset and angry, and you're not taking it personally. You're not like, oh, today's a bad day because Benjamin's in a bad mood. It's, oh, Benjamin's in a bad mood. That was actually a really shitty thing that happened to him. Maybe I should do something kind. So the more we have that emotional processing and that emotional capacity for ourselves, the more we become emotionally available to other people. With me so far? So our next one is attachment awareness. And if you're listening to this, I do not doubt that you have awareness towards your attachment style, right? And it's really important to not just have awareness of our own, but also to have awareness of other people's. And the more that you do kind of the last 4 things that sound very simple, but you're practicing them daily, the more you'll be able to notice patterns and emotions and things in other people, and not in a way where you need to save them or fix them or teach them about anything. You are not their bloody therapist. But the more that you can be like, okay, I'm responding this way because they're doing this, and they're responding this way because I'm doing this, and you can kind of start to see all the patterns unfold, and you can have that awareness. And the reason this is so important is because when we want to make change, we have to be able to see the pattern to intercept it, right? This also means that we need to be very, very fucking honest with ourselves. And we don't like to be honest with ourselves. We like to think that we are more securely attached than what we probably are because we want it so badly, right? But you need to be able to be honest with yourself of, where am I still acting in a way that is based on fear and the past and dysregulation, and what do I need to work on to get out of it? It's not about criticizing yourself. I feel like one of the key things when it comes to relational trauma is that we're very critical of ourselves. This isn't about criticizing ourselves. It's about being critical about what we need to change and what needs to happen for us to be more secure with ourselves and others. Now, our very last one is safe relationships. And I'm not just talking about with other people. First of all, I'm talking about with yourself. The priority here should really be about building a really strong internal safety within yourself. And that comes from self-compassion, that comes from self-empathy, that comes from honoring your own boundaries, that comes from taking time to understand who you are and what you need more of. And I think that maybe this is a question where you guys can ask yourselves, what do I need to be doing more of to help me feel more secure internally? I can't answer that for you. There's also the aspect of making sure that you surround yourself with friends that have strong internal safety. Toxic friends, we're not doing them in 2025. You don't owe them anything. Get rid of them. Harsh but true. And of course, we want to make sure that we are going into dynamics where we are creating safe relationships in our romantic world. To summarize our list, we have self-aware, self-trust, emotional processing, nervous system, attachment awareness, and safe relationships with ourselves and others. Now, for season 3 of the podcast, we're going to run shit a little bit differently, okay? Today, I've kind of given you guys the foundations. Over the next few weeks, I'm going to dive into different aspects of some of these tools, or like some of the skills, and how we can use some of these things to work on different areas of our relationships so that there's a bit more of a theme and a thread going on here. I'm also very soon releasing a bit of the somatic processing. So if you are someone who is like, I'm hearing a lot of what you're saying, stay tuned, because I am so excited for this course. It's actually going to have like the guided audios for you guys to listen to be able to process some of this and give you guys the tools to go back and work through some of the body-based stuff, because it's obviously very hard for me to do that through a podcast. Apart from that, guys, I've missed you like crazy, and I'm so grateful we're back, and I hope you like the new podcast setting, and have a wonderful week.